Let's go back to few slides. So we are looking at conservative and non-conservative forces. So conservative forces have particular set of properties, and one of those property is its relationship with potential energy. So now we are trying to relate the potential energy and the conservative force over here. So here I have a basic idea. I'll just explain the basic idea rather than reading it out. See, say you have potential energy. Say you have potential energy, and if you think of this as certain number of coins per se, example, say there are certain number of coins that I can relate to the potential energy, or we can think of potential energy made up of certain number of coins. Now, there's some kinetic energy for a given system, right? It might be something like this. So the relation between the potential energies and the kinetic energy is governed by, there's a middle guy over here, and that is your conservative force. How the relationship between the potential energy, kinetic energy is, and the movement of the energy, all of this is governed by your conservative force. How the potential energy changes to kinetic energy. How the kinetic energy changes its energy to potential energy. It's governed by conservative force. I'll give you guys an example of a bouncing ball. So we have a ball bouncing, right? Okay, so we have a ball bouncing. Now, if we happen to look at the potential energy, kinetic energy of the ball bouncing around. Sorry, just a second. Yeah. If you happen to look at it, can you see that? Please take a second. This is potential energy and this is kinetic energy. See how if one of them decreases, the other increases. And it's related to, yeah, of course, bouncing. We'll understand this in detail, but can you see that? So this exchange of things, how one is changed, how one being changed affects the other. This relationship is governed by your conservative force, as simple as that. So potential energy is akin to stored form of energy. So you can think of it as stored form of energy, like money in a bank. The conservative force are the financial regulators of this energy system. Right? So actually potential energy is nothing but form of energy, stored form of energy. And the conservative force are the financial regulators that governs this energy system. They govern the transfer of energy between the potential energy and kinetic energy. If we see there is reduction in potential energy, generally it's getting converted to kinetic energy. How it is converting, at what rate it's converting, it's determined by your conservative force. Again, guys, what we are exposing ourselves to is some basic idea of conservative force, properties of conservative force. When we apply it with your gravitational, spring, electrostatic, right, electromagnetic, and so on and so forth, that's when you will understand it in detail. That's when you see it in action. So now if it sounds a bit vague, it's okay. Let's continue. So when potential energy decreases, it is often converted to kinetic energy. Other way around, an increase in potential energy usually comes from an external energy source exerting a force, right? So someone depositing the money. So the official version is that potential energy is defined as the function whose negative gradient gives the force. Or also we may define conservative force as a force which is equal to the negative gradient of potential energy. okay, represented by U. So let me give you guys the mathematical form of all of this. Again, this is in general, so we will understand all of this in detail in time. Actually, we'll keep understanding. It's not like we'll understand once and we are done. We'll keep applying all of these properties because we'll see many conservative forces. So when a conservative force f of x does some work W, like gravity pulling an object down, on an object or a particle within the system, the change in potential, the change in potential energy represented with delta U of the system. Okay, again, understand each statement. S equal to the negative of the work done by the conservative force. Actually, I could have written the statement. Anyways, typed it off. That is delta U is equal to minus W. Right, guys? So we know that work is given by integration of xi xf f of x dx, and therefore delta U will be negative of this expression. That's it. Now, if I differentiate this, right, differentiating, above equation, what do I end up with? Du by dx will be equal to minus f of x. So if I differentiate this with respect to x and all of that, so this will become du by dx, while this will give us just f of x, minus f of x. Okay, or you can rewrite this as f of x is equal to negative gradient of your potential energy, right? Negative gradient of your potential energy. Okay, again, I know it's too vague. I understand that. So you will understand it better in time. So just write it off as of now. Write this off as well.